Here in San Diego, we have a thriving entertainment community. If you're a musician or someone looking to challenge your filmmaking skills by working with a new crew, here is your chance to mingle with some of the most talented and ambitious people you'll ever meet. Come join us from the Intellectual Podcast on Tuesday, August 2nd at the Whistle Stop Bar in South Park for the Music and Film Mixer with your host, Kristen Naomi Garcia. Grab a drink and mix it up during happy hour from 7 to 8 p.m., then get a taste of what our San Diego talent has to offer from 8 to 9:30 p.m. by viewing some locally produced music videos and short films and grooving to live music from Ann Grabeau and the incredible punk sound of the Pictographs. It's a great opportunity to not only network within our San Diego entertainment industry, but to also make some great new friends. So come join us. Brought to you by the Intellectual Podcast.
Talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. The Intellectual Podcast starts now.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Intellectual Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Dawson.
And I'm Kristen Naomi.
And we are sitting, you know, they tell you never meet your heroes because your heroes are going to let you down. But I got to tell you, they're freaking wrong. Because I'm sitting in a Tonight Show set in the garage of one of my heroes, Shotgun Tom Kelly. Hi.
Oh, Dave. It's good to be here, man. Yeah, we're on one of my hobbies. I have a weird hobby. Some people work on cars and some people do paintings. But in the old days, I had this idea of building a Johnny Carson Tonight Show set with the curtains for the monologue and the desk and the interview chair, the backdrops, the plants. And so I did that, and just for grins. You know.
Is amazing.
And by the way,
I went home last night and I told my brother-in-law and my sister, I'm like, oh my God, Shotgun has the garage I want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice man cave. And we did 26 Tonight shows with just family and friends. You know, one of the famous shows you can see on YouTube is the Sheriff John Duffy show. And I was kind of and that had Bill Collender, who was the sheriff and chief of police, and it was a pretty good show, and we had a lot of fun with it, and that was just one of many, and then I did some with maybe people you don't know, just disc jockeys from out of town and stuff like that. But I got 2 cameras. I had to get it when you do like that. When you do a show like that, it's like a sailboat. You have to go out. When you go on a sailboat, you have to have a crew.
That's right.
When you do a Tonight Show, you have to have a crew. So director
can't do it alone.
No, director, 2 camera guys, and audio guy, and boom operator, and light guy, and all that stuff. So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and that's all it was, just fun.
Well, I think it's kind of beautiful that you goofed off in your off time.
Yeah,
doing the thing that you did in your work time. Well,
I was a big
fan. You love what you did.
Yeah, I do. I do love
what you do. Like.
Being on radio and TV is one of my favorite things. It's how I make money. But then I was a big fan of the Johnny Carson Tonight Show, and I've gone up there and seen the show several times, took notes on how the set was built, and came back here. And the set's not that big, by the way. But the Johnny Carson set wasn't that big back in those days, with the multicolored curtains and all that stuff.
Yeah. Leno's wasn't very big either. I went up and saw Leno, and I was surprised when I set foot in there. I was like, oh, this isn't very big at all.
Well, none of them.
Same thing with the Jeopardy set and the Wheel of Fortune set. I was like, these are really tiny.
It always looks bigger on television.
Right. It looks much bigger on TV. And of course,
guys like to be on TV.
And of course, one of my times up at the Tonight Show, and that's also on YouTube. You can see that Shotgun Tom Kelly on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Now, I wasn't on the set, but I was in the audience.
Yeah.
And if you go up to see one of these shows, of course, the guy who warms up the audience says, listen, don't yell out, because Mr. Carson doesn't like people to yell out. If you hear a joke that's funny, laugh. We love that. And applause. We love that. But don't anybody yell out. And that's the instruction we get from the NBC pages. Mm-hmm. Well, they're coming back from a break, and the band's just sounding great. Doc Severinsen and the Tonight Show Orchestra. Mm-hmm. And they're just wailing. And Johnny makes mention how great the band sounds, and what a great song that is coming out of the band. And what's the title of that song, Doc? Do you know the title? And Doc looks at Johnny and says, well, we don't know the title of the song. We just call it a little bit of bassy. But if anybody out there knows the title of that song, we wish that you'd tell us. And at that time, that was my cue. Mm-hmm. So you hear me in the audience go, you better believe it, baby. And Johnny goes, is it you better believe it, baby? And Doc goes, you better believe it, baby. You better believe it, baby. And then Johnny goes, hey, if it wasn't you better believe it, baby, it is now. And then Ed goes, yeah, I saw that guy. We don't want to get that guy steamed. So Dave, I yelled coast to coast and disrupted a network television show.
That's awesome.
I am the man of audacity. Now, on my shows, I had custom music made. Dave Shields is a writer of jingles and things. Mm-hmm. And so he was doing a hotel chain with a full orchestra. And he said, listen, for $3,000, I can do your own theme with like 13 bumps, and it's yours. So he wrote my own theme. And that's what you see on the Sheriff Show.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
Last night we talked a little bit about your hero. You got to meet your hero like real early on, right?
Well, I have several heroes. Which one were you talking about?
Your mom sent you down to KOGO.
Oh, yes.
You looked through the glass. How old were you when that happened?
10 years old. My mom was an avid fan of radio. And I came home from school, and she was listening to Kogo Radio. Mm-hmm. And there was this gentleman by the name of Frank Thompson, and he was broadcasting from a shopping center, and he was in the Kogo mobile unit, which was in a trailer. Mm-hmm. And so he was interviewing people on the air, and my mom heard this, and so she said, Tommy, there's a man interviewing people on the radio. Why don't you go down and see if you can get on the radio? I said, okay, Mom. So I rode my bike down to the shopping center, Lemon Grove, and I saw the trailer. And I peered in the window, and I saw 2 record players and a microphone, and it was just fascinating to me, and I was just mesmerized. And then he looked out the window in the middle of a conversation that he was having, and he said, well, there's a young man peering through the window here. A young man, come on in here. So I got to go in the trailer. And he says, what's your name? My name's Tom. Well, what school do you go to, Tom? I go to St. John of the Cross Catholic School in Lemon Grove. Well, Tom, I've got 4 seats for you to go to Westgate Park and see the LA T-Bird roller games when they come to town. Well, thank you very much. And those were my first words on any radio station. And from that point on, I was just hooked. I went home, and I built my own little radio station. And from there, I visited other radio stations, and it went on and on.
What was your first paying job?
Well, that is very you ask very good questions. That's why I've heard so much about your show from so many people who you have interviewed. You're a good interviewer. But anyway, my first job was as an intern, ripping news, and it was $1.25 an hour at a radio station that was called KDEO, Radio KDO. It's now a religious station, Family Radio now, on 91, Magic 91, maybe they call it now today. But anyway, it was a rock and roll radio station. Mm-hmm. And I went in there, and there was a gentleman by the name of Jim Price. He used Sonny Jim Price on the air, and he was the boss. Mm-hmm. So I was hanging around the station, and at this time I was about 13, 14, or 15, somewhere in that area. And he said, hey, listen, I need a teenager's opinion on a song that I'm going to add. Nobody's added this song around the country, and if I add it, I'll be the first radio station to play this group. And this group is kind of a folk act. It's we're kind of unsure if it's going to be a hit, but I think this is a hit. And I'd like you, as a kid, as a teenager, to give me your teenager's opinion. So he put the song on, and I listened to it, and I go, wow, that sounds great. And he says, okay, because you tell me it sounds great, I'm going to add it. That song was the Mamas and the Papas in California Dreamin'.
No way.
Yeah.
So cool.
And so anyway, he said, well, listen, how would you like a job around the station here? Not on the air, but I'll give you a job working with the disc jockeys, pulling the news off the teletype and working with them at car shows because they did live remotes like Frank Thompson, did. And so they would have the records out there and the news teletype machine. I mean, the whole thing for people to see. Nowadays, when people do remotes, you just got a microphone and somebody's back at the station doing all the other stuff. But back in those days, and this was 64, 65, 60, around that area. And so, I got a job. And that was my first job, Sonny Jim Price. And when I got my star on the Hollywood...
At 13 years old?
Probably 14.
Wow.
And then they told that same story when I got my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Well, you influenced popular music at that age.
Yeah, it was California Dreamin' was a pretty big hit.
It's a huge hit.
Remember, it was Jim Price's idea because he was the boss.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He knew that the Mamas and the Papas had something going.
Yeah.
And it was his idea.
But you were a factor in his decision.
I was a teenager who thought that might be a good idea. And
not a lot of teenagers are given that opportunity to voice that out.
Well, not a lot of them have great ideas either. So
and Liron
that was
Goop,
one of
that's right.
One
that's
of those
right.
good ideas.
California Lottery uses it now. The instrumental version.
Mm-hmm.
But that was that story was told by Liron Gubler, president of the Chamber of Commerce, on the Hollywood Walk of Fame when I got my star. That whole story. So it was kind of nice.
Wow. From 13, 14-year-old kid, just kind of eager to do anything in radio.
Talked about my mom, the whole thing I just told you.
To a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Like, that's a pretty awesome span of career time.
Yeah, I don't have any regrets, Dave. I've done just about everything that I've wanted to do in broadcasting.
Well, you're one of the true powerhouses because you did television and you did radio. You weren't just one or the other.
No.
It's like Naomi's from Chicago, so her first experience was with you 2 San Diego Film Awards ago.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That was great.
And you came walking into the building, and everybody who's grown up here just turned in little puddles of goo. And she's like, what the hell is going on?
Who is this guy?
Who is this guy?
This guy with the hat.
Smokey the Bear hat. What is that? Hey, what's with the hat?
And so I've been trying to explain to her for the last year. It's like, no, you don't understand. Like, Shotgun, he was on the TV in the mornings. We watched him while we were watching cartoons. And then when our parents picked us up from school, we were listening to him on the radio. And he was always a part of the fabric of our existence growing up.
Very lucky.
I left for college in the mid-'90s. When I came back, you're still on the radio.
They couldn't get rid of me.
This is amazing. I love this guy. He's always there. Always there, Yeah. You've been a rock solid part of the SoCal experience for a long, long time. Yeah,
when I was at KCBQ, I always wanted to do a children's television show because one of my big heroes on television when I was a kid, when I came home from school, Dave, like you, was a guy by the name of Johnny Downs. He hosted the cartoons on Channel 10 here locally. And he was a railroad engineer. And he'd pull the and there's a family connection. He pulled the engine in to that beautiful San Diego depot that looks like a mission.
Santa Fe Depot.
Santa Fe Depot, downtown San Diego. And so anyway, we're outside and the planes are going over. So
yeah, it's not so bad.
Okay, all right. So if you hear stuff in the background, that's what's going on. But anyway, the train would come in. He would get off the engine, and he'd walk into that beautiful depot, and he'd open the door of the depot on this film. And right there, the director would cut, and he'd open a door on the set inside the television station. And he'd go, howdy, 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 this is Johnny Downs, everybody, And so here's the family connection. My dad was a railroader on the Santa Fe. And when Channel 10 came in to film that segment, my dad was the engineer who was on his knees bringing the train in while Johnny Downs looked like he was the engineer.
That's
so
amazing.
my big claim to fame, hey, my dad drove Johnny Downs' train, man. and so ever since that point, and I love Johnny Downs. I mean, he was just great. He used to be one of the old Our Gang characters.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He had a long career in Hollywood before he came to San Diego, and at that time when I was a kid, I didn't know that, but later on, through Ken Kramer and about San Diego, and I had heard about that, and so anyway, that's the show I used to watch. So when I was at KCBQ, I said I want a show like Johnny Downs at the same station that Johnny Downs is on, KGTV, Channel 10. So I went over there and I suggested a television show. They didn't like the idea. You know, it's always no. When you suggest shows, they always like say no. So they said, well, we have another idea. We have a game show for kids that we want to put together. We want to call it Words A Poppin' because we need educational game shows back at that time because of Sesame Street and everything like that. So we're going to put together a word game show for kids. We'll have two panels, top panel and top segment of three kids on the top, 3 kids on the bottom panel, and then we'll do games with words. The first game was Mix a Word, unscramble the mix a word for 10 points, and they'd have a buzzer, and whoever had the answer. The second word is a hangman thing, like they do on Wheel of Fortune. You know, you get 2 letters, and then you got to guess the word. And then the third game that we did on Words A Poppin' was find a word. And you had to spell out, okay, cat, but you couldn't say C-A-T. You had to, each square had a number, like C had 2, A had 3, and T had 6 or something. So that's how the kids had to spell it. So anyway, make a long story short, there was a bunch of us who auditioned for the show, including my hero, Johnny Downs.
Oh.
When I walked in, and Johnny Downs was going to be the, he was auditioning like I was for this Words A Poppin' show. I said, Mr. Downs, you don't know what a fan I am of yours. And I'm just going to pack everything up. I'm out. Obviously, I can't compete with you. You're going to get this show. And he was so kind to me. I remember he set me down. Now, shotgun, sit down. And he had a thermos, and he opened up the thermos and gave me some coffee out of his thermos. He said, just have a little coffee, and you do your audition, and I'll do mine. And I said, okay. So I watched his audition. He was terrific, just fabulous. I got in there to do my audition. I must admit I was a little nervous. And then, now we wait. So I got the call from the director. Producer, we've selected you as the host. I said, what about Johnny Downs?
Surely you're insane.
Yeah, you've got to be nuts. No. We want you. We've selected you as the host of Words A Poppin'. Come on down and do the paperwork, and so that's how it began. And that show went for 5 years, 5 seasons, and I won 2 Emmy Awards for the show. You saw the Emmys in the I Love Me room. I have a room.
It's a very impressive room.
Yeah, I have a room in there. My agent calls it the I Love Me room. And then when I got the star, and I got the star on the wall, he says, it's not the I Love Me room anymore, man. I said, well, Tony, what is it? He says, it's the really I Love Me room. But yeah, I got the job. And I was so thrilled because it was a real classy show. And it was syndicated across the country, too, not just here in San Diego, but it was in Indianapolis and Denver and the McGraw-Hill stations. So I got to do a little national thing.
That's fantastic.
Cool.
Did you ever have the chance to run into Johnny Downs again?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I was doing a talk show that's another thing I did, a talk show at KFMB. And I wanted Johnny Downs on the show, and I talked to his daughter. And she said, yeah, I'll talk to my dad about it. And I said, okay. And so she talked to to her dad, and he said, "No, I'm not interested." So I never got to have him on the show.
Oh.
I don't know if there was a resentment there or
Yeah.
what, but anyway, he was a fabulous guy.
Yeah. Well, I thank you for sitting down on my show.
Oh, I love it. No, I heard so much about your show.
You actually offered to come on when I met you at the Film Awards, two Film Awards ago. You gave me your phone number, and I couldn't believe you gave me your phone number. I'm like, surely this is a fake number.
Oh.
I was like, there's no way. He's just brushed me off. And then I run into you again this year, and you're like, why didn't you call me? I'm like, I didn't think that was a real number. Like,
oh, yeah.
I just couldn't believe that you would sit down and have a chat with us. And here we are. So,
yeah, well, Bob Gardner's the one that urged me. He said, hey, Dave Dawson, man, you got to get on that show, man. And
Did he mention
Bob's
me?
wonderful. No, Bob wants to keep you a secret to himself.
I know. I love
Yeah,
Bob Gardner.
and Bob Gardner's one of our great directors here.
He's wonderful.
He really is, man. Talk about an
I got to
award
work
winner.
with him.
Yeah, and
He's
just
great.
a delightful human being. I mean,
Yeah, and just so he says, man, you give Dave your number, man. So that's what happened. It was at the urging of Bob Gardner.
no, that's very sweet. We have to send him a fruit basket or something.
Or a hug.
Yeah, a hug from you would be.
Now, yeah,
all
a
he
hug
needs.
from you. Yeah. In
Ding
fact, a
dong,
lot
fruit
of
baskets arrived.
I mean, you're a very attractive woman.
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
And a lot of my friends last night were enjoying the hugs that they were getting
Oh,
from you.
good.
Very appropriate
I'm
hugs.
good for morale.
Yes,
I know
you are.
this.
I've had a lot better morale since she came on the show.
No, she's great, man. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you're moving up through radio. When did you decide to do television as well?
When I was at KCBQ, I wanted to do that kid show. I wanted to do my rock and roll radio
So
show.
it all came from wanting to do a kid show.
Yeah, because I'd done a kid show, my very first kid show on radio. I got my first radio on the air job where I was actually talking at a station called KPRI 106.5 in 1966. I was still interning at KDEO, and one of the guys that was doing weekends there was program director of the radio station. His name was George Manning. And he said, listen, we need a kid to do weekends. Could you do Sunday morning? And I said, well, sure. Are you kidding me? So I did Sunday morning from 6 a.m. until 12 noon. And during that Sunday morning, you got to realize KPRI was, they played a lot of middle of the road, a lot of jazz, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Nancy Wilson. And I remember the year was 1966 because we were playing Sergio Mendes in the Brazil 66. So that's how I remember that year. I was 16 at that time. And they had a little show from George Manning, and it was, block programming. Mm-hmm. And they took a break, and they had a little show at 8 o'clock on Sunday morning. And we were just supposed to play Disney records and stuff like that for kids. It was a kid show. And they said, well, just make it what you want to make it. So I made it the Uncle Tommy Show. And I had my mom on the show reading stories, and I was playing Disney cuts and stuff like that. And I remember our sponsor was George's Wonderful World of Cakes in National City. So we'd give a cake away every Sunday morning to a birthday recipient. But that was my first kid show on radio, was the Uncle Tommy Show. And then it really was a hit. I couldn't believe it. And then, of course, after 8 o'clock, I went back to playing jazz and Frank Sinatra until noon. But that was a great time for me to, learn how to be on the air.
So was all your training on the job, or did you ever go to any sort of schooling for it?
No, I never went to any schooling for it. It was always on the job.
Yeah.
The only school I went to was an engineering school. Back in those days, you had to have if you had a first class FCC license, they called it a ticket. You had an instant job at a radio station because you got to remember, Dave, back in those days, the big radio stations were AM, not FM.
Right.
KPRI FM was not too many people had FM in their very few in their car.
Yeah.
And
I remember that even when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
A lot of cars were only AM.
AM,
Still
yeah.
didn't have FM. Like having FM was an extra.
or you had to buy a thing and attach it, So I want my goal was to be on an AM station and to be a boss jock because I loved KGB, Boss Radio 136 KGB, and that was an AM station, and I had several friends who worked there, disc jockey friends, Bobby Ocean, and Mark Dennis, who was the program director. He used to let me come in, and Chuck Cooper, who you met last night. He also was on the air at KGB and at KDEO, and Chuck used to let me come in and make my little tapes, and I had a little bootleg station, in my bedroom, 25 watts. So I used to make these tapes over at KDEO on the professional equipment, and then play it on my little Sony tape recorder and hook it up to my transmitter, and broadcast it for about 5 miles.
Nice.
Folks in your neighborhood get to listen
Well,
in.
pirate
Highly
radio.
illegal.
Beautiful.
Highly illegal.
Highly illegal. I got busted. But anyway, that's how I moved
Bad
on.
boy Tom.
Yeah, I know. And I was not committing local crime, committing federal crime. So anyway,
What they do to you?
Well, a friend of mine, now that's another story. A friend of mine who was into the technical part, he stayed home from school, and this was in high school now. I went to Mount Miguel High School. And we were on the AM band. We were 840 on AM. And because that was a clear frequency, it was a Mexican frequency, and it was clear. Nobody else was on that. No American station and no Mexican station. So that was a nice frequency that we could go on. And I was always
sweet spot.
Yeah, it was. I was always listening to see if the Mexicans had put a station on there, and they never did. So that's where we were, 8:40 a.m. And so I was in study hall, I remember, at Mount Miguel High School. And I had my little transistor radio. And I heard music on that frequency. I'm going, oh, my God. The Mexicans have taken over the frequency that we used. And I heard Stevie Wonder, uptight. And I'm going, oh, my God. And then after that, I came on and announced, hey, that was Stevie Wonder and Uptight Out of Sight, everybody. And I'm going, oh, no. Rick, my friend, had stayed home, and he put the transmitter on. We always went on at night when the FCC was closed. He went on in the middle of the day.
Oh, no.
So they got some complaints, and they found it, and the FCC came to Rick's house and said, to his parents, said, your son has violated the Communication Act of 1934, which is punishable by $10,000 fine or 5 years in jail.
Oh, jeez.
That really upset his dad.
I bet.
His dad went out and
Just a
just
little.
The transmitter was at his house. His dad went out and just destroyed the transmitter and everything. And so anyway, they did have a hearing. And to your question, what did they do to me? They gave me a warning. They said, listen, why don't you get a professional license? And that's what I did. I went and got that FCC third-class license so I could work at KPRI doing the Uncle Tommy Show. And so that was how I got into radio legally. And, of course, George Manning gave me that job. So
Fortunate that they just gave you a slap on the wrist.
Yeah.
That may have ended everything if they hadn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually give you a warning, but...
Don't count on it, folks.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't count on
We're not
that.
recommending that you.
No, I don't recommend anybody do that.
No.
But anyway, and that so I wanted to be a boss jock. So I was told by so many jocks that had that first class. Remember, I had a third class license, but everybody had a third. You needed that first class license, and that was rough. That was like the bar exam, man. You had to learn math, rules and regulations of the FCC. and it was just a bunch of stuff that was not about announcing. So you had to go to this special school, and it was called Ogden's Radio Operational Engineering School in Huntington Beach. And Bill Ogden ran the school, ran the course, and so I was there, and I got my license. And as soon as I got my first-class license, I instantly got a job on AM radio in Merced, California. Then I went from Merced to a bigger station, KACY in Ventura. Then I stayed there about a year, and I used the name Bobby McAllister on the station. I hated that name because my name is Tom Irwin. That's my real name.
Right.
And but Bobby McAllister, I just hated that name. So the guy that was on before me, Dave Conley, there's his photograph right there in that picture. He'd say, I do the 6 to midnight show, and he'd go, "Hey, coming up next, it's Bobby Shotgun McAllister." I'm going, wow, that shotgun, that kind of dresses up the name. So I became Bobby Shotgun McAllister, you know.
That was going to be my next question. Where did shotgun come from?
Here we go. Here we go. Hang on, man. And this is the truth. I usually tell a lie. Because the lie, you want to hear the lie?
Yeah, let's hear the lie.
Yeah,
and then
lie
we'll hear
first.
the truth.
Okay, the lie, I would have the opportunity to set in and do the weather on Channel 10 when I was doing Words of Bobbin for Mike Ambrose when he was on vacation. So I went in there and I was ready to do the weather, and you get 5 minutes to do the weather because they cut you off, man, if you're not done. So Mitch Duncan, who was the anchor, said, "Hey, we have Shotgun Tom Kelly sitting in for Mike Ambrose doing the weather. And, Shotgun, I've always wanted to wonder how you got the name Shotgun." And I'm going, oh, man, I can't tell the truth. I got to come up with a lie. Well, Mitch, and here's the lie. I said, Mitch, I never liked to ride in the back seat. I always liked to ride in the front seat next to my dad. And, of course, that position is shotgun. Now let's check out the Southern California weather. Look, as we step into the, So that only
It's just
took,
nice and smooth.
Yeah. Just
Right there.
10 seconds, you're in and out.
I think it was 5 seconds to explain how I got the name Shotgun, which is a lie. The truth is I was Bobby Shotgun McAllister, and my friend Dave Conley got this opportunity to go to Bakersfield. And now I was working 6 to midnight, remember, at KACY. I would be able to do daytime over at KAFY in Bakersfield. And I said, "Dave, I just can't stand that name, Bobby McAllister." And he said, "Well, you use your real name, Tom Irwin." I said, "I'm on." So I went over to Bakersfield, and it was a lateral move because KC in Ventura, Oxnard was about the same deal as Bakersfield.
Right.
Only Bakersfield was inland and it was real hot. KC was along the coast, And so but I wanted the opportunity to use my real name, Tom Irwin. So we got there, and the general manager, who was Jewish, said, "I just don't like the last name, Irwin. It sounds too Jewish. I'm Jewish, but I'd rather have something else on the air with more color." "What nationality are you?" he asked me. I said, "Well, I'm Irish." He said, "Irish? How about Tom Kelly?" Tom Kelly. And then Dave said, "Yeah, we'll revive the shotgun from Bobby Shotgun McAllister, and we'll call you Shotgun Tom Kelly." So that's how I came up with the name Shotgun Tom Kelly.
Nice.
And I've used it ever since. And that was 1970 when I started using Shotgun Tom Kelly. And here it is, 2016. Been using it ever since.
I think I found out that your name is Tom Irwin like in the early 2000s.
Was it? Yeah.
So I spent 20 years just knowing you as Shotgun Tom Kelly.
Right.
I was like, wait, that's a stage name?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. That's cool.
When articles came out in the Reader, of course, Shotgun Tom Kelly, in parentheses, Tom Irwin. They always like to do that. Reporters like to do that, man. They like to out you. Facts.
They like to out you.
Yeah. But that's okay.
They have a weird fascination with a thing called facts.
Yeah, I guess so. So anyway, from KAFY, Caffey, Charlie Van Dyke. Remember, I wanted to be a boss jock. I wanted to come home.
Right.
I wanted to come home to San Diego. And I hope I'm not stealing your thunder. I know your next question, well, how'd you get to San Diego?
Well, here's the thing, Shotgun. It's a conversation. So, I'm listening to you tell your story.
Okay, well, I don't.
I'm just here to guide if you seem to slow
you're
down.
the congenial host.
She's the congenial host.
Oh, yeah, she is definitely very congenial, I must say. Anyway, so I wanted to be a boss jock. So I heard that there was an opening at 136 KGB in San Diego. And I go, wow, I know it's a shot, but I'll send a tape. And we use the same jingles at Caffey in Bakersfield. It's another reason I wanted to go there, KAFY, Bakersfield, the Johnny Man Singers.
Right.
And KGB used the Johnny Man Singers. So, I mean, it was a great tape that I put together. So Charlie Van Dyke, who's the voice of Channel 51 now, you hear, he does all that. And the voice of Channel 7, and the voice of several television stations across the country. Big voice, big, deep voice. He used to be a disc jockey, and I used to listen to him in San Francisco and in Detroit. And so he was a big radio star, but then he got into the voiceover thing. And now he's a big voiceover star. So I knew who he was, and he wanted to be a program director. He wanted to be the boss. So he got the station. He was the boss at KGB, program director. And I sent him my tape, and he listened to it, and I got a call. Now, I knew what his voice sounded like. I get this call from this deep voice. Yeah, Shotgun, this is Charlie Van Dyke. I'm going, I've heard him several times. And he said, yeah, I got your tape. It sounds a little too good. I said, oh, really? He said, yeah. He said, listen, when you least expect it, I'm going to drive up to Bakersfield, and I'm going to listen to you. And you don't know I'm listening. I said, okay. So he said, I'll be up in the next couple of weeks. You make sure you do good shows. I said, okay. So I waited 1 week, nothing. I said, well, man, he said he'd be up in the next couple of weeks. So the next week, middle of the week, I see this guy standing out. I know what he looks like. I've seen his picture. He's got a Van Dyke beard like you do, Dave.
Yeah.
And I go, man, it's Charlie Van Dyke, man. He wants to. So anyway, I went out and let him in. He said, hey, let's go to dinner. I was doing afternoons then. And so I said, this would be great. And so we had dinner. And he said, well, I heard you live. And you do sound like your tape. How bad do you want to come to KGB in San Diego? And I said, Charlie, more than anything in this world. He said, Shotgun, welcome to KGB. Oh, and what a class guy. As soon as I arrived here, I gave my 2 weeks notice. After 2 weeks, I arrived, and he had my stationery with my name on it. He had my business cards with my name on it, and he said, you're to report to Cinera Studios to get your picture taken for the Boss 30. And so that was really great.
Awesome.
So now I'm in my hometown. Oh, by the way, I want to backtrack a little bit. My first television kid show, again, I was at Caffey in Bakersfield, and on Saturday mornings, they wanted a clown. So I had to dress up in a clown outfit, kind of like Bozo the Clown in Chicago.
I know Bozo.
Yeah, I knew you did. That's why I bring that up.
Thank you for that.
So anyway, I had the big shoes and the whole outfit.
Really?
And they, just like Bozo the Clown, they own the image. So I was just, I didn't use Shotgun Tom Kelly. I was Nemo the Clown on Saturday mornings on Channel 23, KERO TV in Bakersfield. And so we did that for, a good 6-7 months. I did this radio show, and then nobody knew Shotgun Tom Kelly was Nemo the Clown. And there's pictures on my website. One of my friends saw the picture of me dressed up as a clown, and he goes, "Oh my God, you look like John Wayne Gacy."
Oh, jeez. I also know that reference as well.
Yeah, I know you do.
Thanks, Chicago.
Yeah, another. So anyway, I'm in San Diego and just having a great time.
Yeah. When did the look get established?
Okay,
because the hat's like
yeah,
as iconic as your voice at this point when it comes to you.
yeah.
So when did the hat come in?
Well, when I went to work for Charlie Van Dyke at KGB, I had no beard because I was Nemo the Clown.
Right.
Clowns can't have beards. So I had no beard, and I just had short hair, and I was looking plenty boss. Boss Radio, 136 KGB, you know. Mm-hmm. So in my picture on the Boss 30, which is also on my website, shotguntomkelly.com, is I'm holding my glasses like that, no beard, and just looking real spiffed out. So anyway, I was KCBQ at that time was beating KGB in the ratings, and so Charlie hated to tell me that he had a transfer for me. I was going to go to Fresno, and I was just distraught. I've been working 6 months at this job, and now I've got to leave.
For Fresno?
For Fresno. I mean, I was in Bakersfield. I came from that direction. I didn't want to go back. So I was just distraught. And then I got this call from Rich Brother Robin and Buzz Bennett, who were at KCBQ. And they said, "We want to hire you for middays over here." So I was hired at KCBQ across the street at the competition. And we beat KGB to a pulp. And unfortunately, Charlie lost his job. Mm-hmm. And of course, it was a sad situation, but we were really on our way up. So nationally recognized on radio, KCBQ was the station that was beating Boss Radio. So other stations were trying to be like us.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're giving away cars and cash, and it was just, and playing great songs. And so anyway, to answer your question, Dave, I started to grow a beard. And you got to realize it was the hippie days of 1971. My hair got longer. I got smoking dope and crafting this beard. And then I wanted to look different than the other jocks. Mm-hmm. And so I remember my folks taking, every summer we'd go to the Redwoods. And I love the Forest Rangers and Smokey the Bear, you know. So I went to Christensen's department store, which was then in East San Diego, and they had these Smokey the Bear hats.
Right.
So, hey, that's what I'm gonna put on. And so that's how it started at KCBQ. And that's when I started wearing the Smokey the Bear hat. And it's just stuck.
Yeah. How do you feel about Farrell stealing your look?
As a matter of fact, I have a picture of me talking to him about that.
Hope he laid into him.
When he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, I got to say, hey, listen, man, I've been wearing that hat for a long time. I don't want to take anything away from you, but you know, it wasn't necessarily your idea, you know. You know. And oh, by the way, a lot of people, when I tell them I did Tonight shows in my garage, oh, you got that idea from Kramer on Seinfeld. No. I was doing them way before Kramer. But anyway, I digress. I've actually talked to Pharrell about that when he got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, because I'm invited to all these stars if I want to go.
Right.
A lot of times I don't go, but if I want to go, I can go.
What was it like getting your star? Like, how did that feel?
That had to be amazing.
Well, first of all, CBS Radio, who I work for in Los Angeles, at K-Earth 101, they put my name in for a star. And there's a judging facility. You have 5 people who are going to be judging who gets a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. There's 5 categories. There's movies. There's television, there's recording, there's live theater, and there's radio. Those are the 5 categories of stars. And each one of those categories has a guy from like the television industry, a guy from the movie industry, a guy from the plays, and a guy from radio representing. And they get together every June and they select who's going to get a star. Now, they get hundreds of applications a year, and they only select just a few. So the first year, the CBS put my name in, and it's kind of like the Academy Awards, and they do it online. So I woke up, and they make the announcement on who's getting a star, and they start out with movies, and they start, and then they get to radio, and nobody was going to get a star for radio that year. So I go, okay, I've been passed over. Now you got to wait another year.
Right.
So the next June, I tune in, and they get to the radio envelope. And the recipient for a radio star, Ellen Kay, who's Ryan Seacrest's cohort back then. Mm-hmm. Now she's got her own show on Coast. So that was year 2. So I got rejected 2 years now. So the third year, I'm going, I almost gave up. I'm going, man, they're just not interested. So again, I get up in the morning and I tune into the internet, and Marg Helgenberger, the actress. Yeah. So she was the person. They usually get a celebrity to open up the envelopes, and they get to the envelope of radio. They do TV, movies, live theater, recording, and then the radio's last. So you get to radio, and they go, and the 2013 recipients for a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for radio are Steve Harvey. And she paused. I go, oh, man, I almost shut the computer off. And Shotgun Tom Kelly. I don't know why she paused, but I may just...
Must have been the longest pause of your entire life.
I guess it was. So that I knew that I was going to get the 2013. I was one of the people that year. And that was a great year for people getting stars, because I remember Alan Cranston got his star in 2013. And who else? Oh, the list goes on. Carole King got her star in 2013. Jimmy Kimmel was also selected to get a star. And it was really a great group of us. Ronnie Howard got his directing star. So it was a nice group to be connected with. Yeah. But then you've got to wait. Now you have to work with the chamber and find a date. Right. When they're going to do, and of course a place. I wanted to be at the corner of La Brea and Hollywood Boulevard, because another one of my heroes, radio heroes, the guy who I succeeded at K-Earth, the real Don Steele. Right. And I used to listen to him when I was a kid.
Was he over by La Brea and Hollywood?
And that's where his star is. Mm-hmm. But I used to listen to him religiously when I was a kid. Yeah. I mean, he was just spot on. And he passed away. And that's how I got the job at K-Earth. They needed somebody to succeed the real Don Steele. And they called me because I guess I have similar styles. Well, being a fan of his, I guess, listening to him, I guess I kind of sounded adopted a little bit of I'm in the pocket, you know. Mm-hmm. So being that I succeeded him, I wanted my star to be next to him. Yeah. So they granted it.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh, that is beautiful.
They don't usually grant where you're going to get your star. They pick it. Right. But they said, okay, sounds good. Let's do it.
That's beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. There's that beautiful photo of you in your me room.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're shaking the hands of the people who were there.
Oh, yeah. That's the first thing. I got out of the limo, and the first thing I went was to the crowd, because the fans make me. Yeah. I mean, the fans are the important part of my career. I mean, I've seen a lot of people get stars, and usually they just stay,
Stay back until it's
behind the red rope.
Yeah.
But I went around the red rope, and I went right over to the radio fans, and I loved it, and it was great.
And there was just a real look of joy on your face.
Yeah.
You know, in that photograph. It was really fun for us to see it last night.
Right. By the way,
that's what we keep saying is like, we do this because we're passionate about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we make films because we're passionate about it. We podcast because we're passionate about conversations with people. And we always talk about, if you're truly passionate about what you're doing, the people around you, they feed off that energy and they appreciate it and they love it. Yeah. And that photograph in the room just spoke volumes about what we believe.
He did capture it, didn't he? And by the way, the guy who took that photograph, usually the official photographer for the Hollywood Walk of Fame is Robert Freeman. Mm-hmm. Whenever you open up a Life or a People magazine, somebody's getting a star, that's a Bob Freeman. Mm-hmm. But a friend of mine who's a Hollywood producer and director, in fact, he's producing a show called Animal Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen Oceanside, right?
Yeah, Oceanside, yeah.
That's our hood.
That's his show. So he's the director-producer of that. And he also, I guess the manager, he's got anyway, he goes out and gets locations. Mm-hmm. And that's part of his job. So he said, hey, Shotgun, can I come and take a couple of snapshots? And he's a director, man. So he came with his beautiful camera. He's the one that took that picture.
Yeah.
And he took so many more. And he made a book for me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
iBook. And the station, I wanted Stevie Wonder to be my speaker. And Stevie said yes. And so that was really worked out great. That's awesome. He wasn't on tour that week. And
that's awesome.
I remember he called the house and he said, I said, hey, are you on tour? I'm getting my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on April 30th. Can you make it? He says, yeah. So he said, just have your people call my people. So the station that was putting it together, it takes a lot to put that thing together.
Yeah.
They called the president of his company, and so that's how we got Stevie there.
Oh, that's great.
Wow. Well, plus Stevie's an old friend.
Yeah.
So I'm sure. And I know him, and he knows me. So you had to find somebody to speak for you. You got to find that they know you. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's who you know is so important in what we do.
Well, and Stevie was the perfect choice.
Yeah.
You know, and if you go on YouTube again, you can go Shotgun Tom Kelly Hollywood, and you see a picture of me and Stevie. Click on that. It's a 5-minute edited version of when I got my star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and you'll see what Stevie had to say about me. And he also did something very special.
Oh, yeah?
And I'm not going to tell you what he did. I just want your fans.
We're going to go ahead and embed that video into our show page on our website. So if you're listening to this, you want to check that out, just, if you're not already on the website, go visit theintellectual.com, check out Shotgun Tom's episode page. Mm-hmm. We're going to embed that video so that everybody can find it nice and easy.
Great.
And, I know you got dinner plans. You got to get moving. Mm-hmm. So we got to cut this short. I could talk to you for days.
I know. I could talk to you for days, too. And, hey, I'll tell you, I've heard so many people listen to your podcast. You are a star in your own right.
Oh,
and you're a producer. Yeah. You're a director. You do all this stuff.
I'm just a guy doing stuff.
Yeah, but you do it well. And you're an award winner.
Thank you. Yeah.
You get what did you get, 5 or 6 awards?
Yeah, collectively, Intellectual Entertainment won 6 awards.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far. We're in progress.
That's great. You're doing somebody told me this. Mark Dennis, who earlier I was talking to him about, when I visited KGB, mm-hmm. and he was the program director. I always get close to the program directors, Sonny Jim Price and Mark Dennis. Maybe they'll give me a job. But Mark Dennis told me this. He said, find something you love to do, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I found something I love to do.
Yeah.
Radio and television. And I must tell you, I've never worked a day in my life.
There's no better thing to hear than that.
Nope.
So, sometime down the road, love to sit down and chat with you some more.
Absolutely. Anytime,
just
Dave.
Keep yapping, because I could listen to your voice literally all day long.
Oh, well, thanks, man. I hope you had a good time. I know you came out to the house last night.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted you to, before we sat down and did this, I wanted you to get a feel of my friends, Jeff Prescott.
Well, and I said to Naomi as we left here last night that I was really glad that you invited us out to hang out, because it helped me get rid of some of my own nerves.
Oh, good.
About sitting down to talk to you today.
Oh, good, yeah.
Because, like I said, I grew up, listening to you and watching you on TV, and to have this opportunity to sit and chat with you one-on-one, like, this is a really big deal for me.
Oh, well, that's great. And you got some great I hope you get Jeff Prescott. He was the team of Berger and Prescott. And he's he's a great journalist. And him and Gabriel Wisdom did the News Brothers in the old days. Mm-hmm. And so maybe you'll have him on your podcast.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you got to meet a director friend of mine, my director who directed Words of Poppin', Fred Bouchard. And
we want to get Fred on too.
Fred's got some
pearls of wisdom, man.
Yeah. He sure does.
Yeah. And he doesn't believe he does, but
yeah. and then the guy that wasn't here last night, who usually is a regular, is Marty Levine.
Right.
So you get Marty on sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to chat with all of them.
All right.
If you can help us get that set up, that'd be brilliant.
No problem.
Cool. All right. So check us out on Facebook, Twitter. Facebook, we're Intellectual Entertainment. Twitter and Instagram, we are at The Intellectual. You can follow Kristen on Twitter and Instagram at KNAOG1. You can follow me personally on Twitter and Instagram at David S. Dawson. You can also find me on Facebook at The Real David S. Dawson. And what are you're just at Kristen Naomi Garcia on
Correct.
Facebook, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Shotgun Kelly. ShotgunTomKelly.com.
ShotgunTomKelly.com. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, cool. Thanks for joining us on the Intellectual Podcast. I'm your host, Dave.
I am Kristen Naomi.
And we will talk again soon.
See you guys.
Hello there, citizens. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the floaty that will not flush no matter how many times you try in the toilet bowl of crime. I am Darkwing Duck, telling you please, talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. Whatever the heck that means. After all, you are watching Intellectual Podcast with your ears.
Here in San Diego, we have a thriving entertainment community. If you're a musician or someone looking to challenge your filmmaking skills by working with a new crew, here is your chance to mingle with some of the most talented and ambitious people you'll ever meet. Come join us from the Intellectual Podcast on Tuesday, August 2nd at the Whistle Stop Bar in South Park for the Music and Film Mixer with your host, Kristen Naomi Garcia. Grab a drink and mix it up during happy hour from 7 to 8 p.m., then get a taste of what our San Diego talent has to offer from 8 to 9:30 p.m. by viewing some locally produced music videos and short films and grooving to live music from Anne Grabeau and the incredible punk sound of the Pictographs. It's a great opportunity to not only network within our San Diego entertainment industry, but to also make some great new friends. So come join us. Brought to you by the Intellectual Podcast.